gavel. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City Council study session of Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. I now call the meeting to order. Would everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance. Okay, this is our budget study session tonight. And so, Madam Clerk, would you please do the voice roll call? Because as we'll talk about in a second, we have a remote council member.
Thank you. Councilmember Harper?
Here.
Councilmember Gameros?
Here.
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds? And Councilmember Marr will be participating from the Hyatt Place Boulder in Boulder, Colorado.
All right.
Here.
And so, do you have to make a little statement regarding your whereabouts and compliance with the Brown Act, Councilmember Marr?
Yeah, as Brenda stated, I am at the Hyatt Place in Boulder, Colorado. I'm participating remotely. I have posted that I am here, and if there are members of the public that would like to join me, they're welcome to.
I wish. Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
very tempting. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Harling? Mayor Stevens?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, good stuff. So we're going to do our public comments tonight. As always, we're going to start in the chambers if people want to speak, and then we're going to go to Zoom if anybody's on Zoom and wishes to speak. For this budget session, it's an important study session, as they all are, but this is the budget, so it's a biggie. So what we're going to do is go for 3 minutes. People have 3 minutes. You'll get a yellow light and a audible ding at 1 minute. Please wrap it up at that point. Then your mics will be closed off. And so does anybody in the chambers wish to speak? Yes, yes, of course, you have the floor.
I submitted a PowerPoint presentation, a few slides, if I could
Okay.
bring those up.
I'm sorry.
Not in time?
Not in time, and
It's
it has to be on
beautiful.
the budget, too.
It's beautiful and it's colorful.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. For this, normally what we say for public comments is you can talk about anything other than what's on the agenda. The thing about the study sessions is it has to be about something that's on the agenda, which is our budget. So that's a pretty broad relevancy topic. If you can tie your comments to the budget, it should be pretty straightforward. So go right ahead if you want to give your comment. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll make this quick then. Mayor Stevens, council members and staff, my name is Andrew Barnes. I just wanted to say thank you for allocating funding for bike and pedestrian safety. I did put a few slides together. Hopefully we can share that with you at a future date to give you an example of what your largesse has wrought within the community. On May 27th, we have the very first pedestrian and bicycle safety event, festival, going to be held at Estancia High School. The support and involvement of the City Council, City staff, the Active Transportation Committee, and our partner, Walk and Rollers, has attracted a dizzying array of community support. The Costa Mesa Police Association has graciously donated 2 bicycles and 2 $100 gift cards that we can raffle off to the participants in an effort to attract participants. SCAG has donated over 200 bicycle helmets to be given away to the participants. Our very own electric bicycle company has provided 2 e-bikes at their cost. I've secured local private funding for the balance of that money. Those also will be donated to the raffle, and everyone successfully completing the safety training will be entered into a raffle with a chance to win that. The food and the music will be donated by the city. Again, your budget to make it possible to have all of these other community members step forward has been instrumental in our efforts here. We also have countless community volunteers who are going to make this a successful event. And I want to say thank you for your vision to make this community a safer place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Good evening, Cynthia McDonald, Costa Mesa resident. I hope you read the email that I sent. I want to expand on a couple of items. I've always been skeptical about the blue sky thinking on cannabis taxes. I'd like to know how you arrived at the $3 million estimate, looking at Los Angeles, which created regulations early and therefore seized the opportunity to tax. Its collections peaked during the pandemic, but sales in 2022 decreased over the projected amount, resulting in a negative 12.3% in receipts. LA is not anticipating an increase this year. How many applications in Costa Mesa have been withdrawn? And is the 33% increase in Measure X taxes too optimistic? I hope it's not. I'd love to see money going to active transportation. I'd love to see an art festival here like Laguna has. So great if it isn't. Moving to the Belfast signal. I've heard a lot of preaching from the dais the past few weeks about how issues do or do not fit into the City Council's goals. How does creating another stoplight for cars to idle at fit into the Council's goals? It certainly isn't sustainability and climate resiliency. This is putting the quality of life of a few motorists over possible improvements to Fairview Road that would enhance safe walkability and bikeability. There is no crosswalk across Fairview in the 3/4 mile from Paularino to South Coast Drive. The bike lanes begin and end on Fairview without warning. If a signal was going to fix all the crashes on Fairview, why didn't the McCormick signal, which is one short block away, fix it? This is a folly. Then Measure K. $700,000 will barely make a dent in the promise to do community visioning workshops, much less the planning and environmental reports. This tells me what I've suspected all along, and that is that the city never intended to live up to its promise, and it doesn't give a hoot about what the residents think. If any of you bring up sharettes and online surveys, well, just don't. It's not visioning. Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. Kate Ryan, a resident of Costa Mesa, an artist and parent. I urge council members to approve the Arts and Culture Master Plan Fund budget and demonstrate commitment to the arts and ensure that they continue to be an integral part of our community for years to come. As we know, the arts play an important role in the well-being of any community. They enrich our lives, inspire creativity, and promote cultural diversity. For these reasons, it's essential that we invest in our local arts programs and events. The proposed arts budget will help to ensure that our community continues to flourish as a hub of creativity and innovation. It will provide funding for local artists like myself, art education programs and cultural events. By supporting the arts, we can also attract visitors to our city, which will help boost our local economy. The arts have proven to be a vital tool for promoting mental health and well-being, especially during these challenging times. They offer an escape from the stresses of daily life and provide a source of comfort and inspiration. By investing in the arts, we are investing in the health and well-being of our community. The arts are not a luxury, but a necessity. They reflect the values and aspirations of our community and contribute to our sense of identity and pride. Your approval of the arts budget will have a positive impact on our community and help to ensure that our local city remains a vibrant and creative place to work, live, and visit. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. My glasses. Good evening. I'm Diane Russell. I'm a resident of Costa Mesa. And tonight I want to express my support of the staff's recommendations for funding the Cities of the Arts programs. Staff works hard to put together a budget that reflects the city's priorities. We've branded ourselves as Costa Mesa, the City of the Arts. That indicates that we as a city value the arts. The budget is a reflection of our values. That means that we don't get to value the arts programs when we get around to it or when we feel like it. That means that we fund the arts at a level that supports the master plan on a regular annual basis. This year, that means increasing the city's support of the Summer Camp for the Arts, another art crawl, and the art crawl was so much fun. There were just a few of us, but it was a great event. Creating more public and temporary public arts funded by the city and potentially private developers, and scheduling performing arts programs throughout the city throughout the year. The arts are not something that are just for the people that can make it to Segerstrom. The arts are something that need to be presented in the 4th district, the 5th district, the 1st district, 2nd, 3rd district, 6th district. And at some point, the 0.5% of the cannabis taxes may easily cover the arts budget. But until then, we need to invest more of the cannabis tax money to support the arts programs as the staff recommends. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you've got the floor.
Hello, Council. My name is Fisher Dardarian. I'm a resident of Costa Mesa and serve on the city's Arts Commission. I'm here today to urge you to provide funding for the city's arts and culture efforts, taking up the agenda report suggestion of funding each year's costs from the available cannabis retail tax receipts as needed to fully implement the Arts and Culture Master Plan. Our city's motto is the City of the Arts, and by investing in the arts, we can ensure that our city remains a leader in the field. We've already begun to live up to this identity through projects like the utility box art all throughout the city and the arts grants that were recently awarded. These initiatives demonstrate the city's commitment to promoting the arts and recognizing the important role that art plays in our community. As the philosopher Roger Scruton once said, beauty is an ultimate value, something that we pursue for its own sake and for the pursuit of which no further reason need be given. Beauty should therefore be compared to truth and goodness, one member of a trio of ultimate values which justify our rational inclinations. By investing in the arts, we are pursuing beauty as an ultimate value, and in so doing, we are contributing to the well-being and quality of life of our residents. It's important to remember that beauty is not just a superficial quality. It has a real and tangible benefit for the community. As we invest in public art and expand residents' access to our city's art institutions like Segerstrom and ACMA, we are creating opportunities for our residents to engage with beauty and enrich their lives. Therefore, I urge the council to take up the issues of expanding public art and residents' access to our city's art institutions. By doing so, we can attract more visitors, create jobs, and make our city a more vibrant and prosperous place to live. Let's embrace our city's motto of the City of the Arts and provide the necessary funding to implement all the projects outlined in the Arts and Culture Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
I'm here to advocate for our police department. They've done a wonderful job. However, I think they're being hamstrung with not enough officers and not enough resources given to them by the council. I'd like to remind the council that in the state of Colorado, since they have legalized marijuana, they've had a 17% uptick in their drunk drivers. And not only has it been with the drunk drivers, but it's been with fatal accidents. So this is putting a real pressure on the police departments in Colorado, and I'm assuming it's going to do the same thing for us. Every planning commission, we have pot shop after pot shop being approved. We have no limit to the amount of marijuana stores that are going to come in. And with every marijuana store, we have, a bigger threat that there is going to be purchases that are going to have people driving on the road. We need someone, and we need the traffic stops and the DUI checks that they've had have been unbelievably successful. I know they're federally granted, but what I'm saying, that doesn't stop the council from paying for more of these DUI checks. We should be having those constantly because I think the last one they pulled 8 or 9 drunk drivers off of the road, plus suspended licenses. They've been very successful. You know, we've had, in 2020, there were 386 arrests for drunk driving in Orange County, in Costa Mesa. In 2021, 1,017 arrests in Costa Mesa. Now, you know people are not stopping drinking. So in 2022, we had 483 arrests. Now, that's not because people have stopped imbibing. It's because I think we don't have enough enforcement on the road. I think the arts are great. I support the arts, but I want safety. Safety for everybody in our city and everybody on the road. So I'm asking you, whatever it takes for the police department to get more DUI checks, more staff, I'm asking you to do this in the name of the entire city, in the name of safety, and every person that visits our destination city. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we'll close public comments, and remember the protocol for today is casual study session format where we can talk, if we choose to, call each other by our first name, and so we'll hear from our staff, do a staff report, and then council will have an opportunity to ask whatever questions or make whatever comments that they want, and then we'll adjourn. So, Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Yes, for consideration tonight is the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget study session. Presentation by Ms. Molina, Finance Director.
Ms. Molina, you have, Carol, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. It's my honor tonight to present to you the fiscal year 23-24 proposed operating and capital improvement project starting on July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024. Before I continue, though, I do want to take a moment to thank staff. It takes countless hours, weekends, and nights to put these numbers together before you tonight. So I'd like to thank Anna Baca, Kathleen Serrano, Michelle Jordan, along with all of the department heads and their analysts that have made this proposed budget for you tonight possible. So this year's theme is the art of collaboration. Tonight, we're going to present to you the 23-24 revenue and expenditure proposed budget, our general fund reserves, and we'll end with the calendar. As in every year, we prepare the proposed budget with these guiding principles in mind: our strengthening public safety, diversifying, stabilizing, increasing housing, advancing environmental sustainability, recruiting and retaining staff, and achieving a long-term fiscal sustainability. For our 23-24 proposed operating and capital improvement budget overview, we'll start with our all funds overview. I am pleased to announce that our general fund was balanced structurally without the use of reserves or any ARPA funds. We've designated over 52% of our general fund resources to our public safety departments. We invested $31.1 million in our CFP as presented by Director Sethuraman. We've annualized our recently negotiated employee contracts to retain and recruit high-quality staff. And we've also enhancing our services to our community and strengthening our public safety by converting key part-time positions to full-time, including recreation specialist, property and evidence specialist, crime analyst, animal control officer, and a new associate engineer. In all funds description, our general fund, which essentially is our largest fund, is essentially unrestricted. However, we do have a multiple of special revenue funds that are restricted to specific expenditures, such as our ARPA funds, our Measure M, gas tax, RMRA, just to name a few. We also have 3 internal service funds. These are used to finance and account for activities involved in essentially city department businesses. These 3 internal service funds, equipment replacement, self-insurance, and our IT replacement fund, essentially provides a business to our city departments so they can essentially turn around and provide their services to our constituents. For our all 23-24 all funds budget, we're at $232.8 million. Our operating budget grew by $17.2 million, or 10%. Our transfers out grew by $3.6 million, or 34%, and our capital budget grew by $5.8 million, or 23%. Our operating budget includes our investment in recruitment and retention, contract increases, and some other operational increases we'll go through in a couple of slides. Our transfers out essentially is our CAN and RT replacement transfers, and our capital budget is our investments in our CIP for a total increase of $26.6 million. So let's start with our ARPA funding. This essentially is a special revenue fund and therefore is restricted on what we can spend these monies on. In our first tranche of $13.1 million, we funded the reinstatement of staff hours and salaries with 5% furloughs when COVID first hit. We did multiple small business grants. We expended on COVID-related homeless services. We funded our disaster fund expenditures in both 1920 and 2021. We reinstated funding for the CAN that was relieved in the COVID years. We also funded our IT replacement fund from the ARPA revenues, since those are considered revenue loss. We reinstated 14 defunded positions and reinstated department budget cuts. So where are we with our second tranche? So this slide will show you our first tranche is fully expended. Our second tranche, about $13.3 million, we've committed $3.5 million to our project Home Key, $975,000 for our bungalows project, $500,000 towards rental assistance, and at last council meeting, you took the direction to identify $40,000 for our CDBG surface applicants' balances. For our future proposed of about $4 million, which are essentially planned, will be before you at a future meeting, would be our bridge shelter expansion project, an additional round of a Home Key project, mental health services, and more rental assistance funds. In the proposed 23-24, we're projecting $230,000 for our homeless services and the CAN's share of the second tranche of these funds, as well as our IT replacement fund, for a total of $10.1 million, leaving $3.2 million of still uncommitted funding. In our strengthening of public safety for our all funds, we're requesting appropriation of $500,000 in our asset forfeiture funds in the police department for enhancements of jail and campus security. We're also recommending to finance 2 fire department American La France pumpers for $2.7 million. $975,000 will be funded from the CDBG funds. The balance will be financed through a master lease agreement. In our police department, we're recommending to fund the replacement of 4 motorcycles, 9 patrol units, a SWAT vehicle, animal control vehicle, telecommunications truck for a total of $1 million, and a traffic intersection signal for $650,000. In the diversify, stabilize, and increase housing to reflect community needs, we are requesting a transfer, which would be brought forth to you at a later council meeting, of about $700,000 from the current year savings to our housing authority for the housing element implementation. Did want to take a pause here to let you know that we are fully aware that $700,000 is not sufficient for the housing element. We are requesting authority at a later date for you to allow us to transfer additional savings up to $3 million that's expected to cost the city for the full housing element implementation. As well as a $3.5 million in unappropriated state funding for the Fairview Development Center, a 15-bed increase for the permanent bridge shelter, a proposed inclusionary housing ordinance that will be discussed May 16th, our next council meeting. The second potential project Home Key motel conversion, which is still under development, anticipating to come before you on June 6th for conversation. as well as continued funding for the city's homeless outreach and bridge shelter programs of $3.6 million. In our internal service funds, the Information Technology Replacement Fund fully funds year 4 of our ITSP of $3.1 million. It includes the additional position for cybersecurity, $300,000 for the finance ERP purchasing module, $1.5 million for the CAD RMS, and $250,000 for a document imaging database system in our Laserfish. In our self-insurance internal service fund, we're adding $250,000 for some ongoing administration costs. In our Arts and Culture Master Plan, it currently allocates 0.5% from the cannabis retail and delivery tax, essentially our Measure Q, as outlined in the ordinance. Because $167,000 in anticipated revenue is insufficient to fully support this program, we are recommending a change. Essentially keep the 0.5%, however, allow appropriations at the end of this year to fully fund year 3, which we're anticipating an additional $300,000. We're also recommending a policy to change in the financing strategy for this fund, moving forward in the following fiscal years to fully fund the Arts and Culture Master Plan, differential from the general fund. So any amounts needed above the revenue estimate for the 0.5% would be supported by the general fund. In our improving the quality of life, you heard from Director Sedaraman the proposed CIP of $31.1 million. It includes multiple park expansions, cafes, and restoration improvement projects. The Capital Improvement Fund currently includes about $385,000 in unallocated funding. It's currently not in your proposed budget. We are recommending, if council so desires, to set aside these funds to be used for a park acquisition in the west side of the city. And in our gas tax fund, we are adding a street sweeping contract increase of about $720,000. This is the breakdown of our CIP funding sources from our general fund, gas tax, golf course, and our grant funds to total $31.1 million. This is a pie chart showing how much money is going to parks, the bulk of it of 5.3, 3.8 to facilities, the balance is to streets, transportation, and parkways and medians. Now to get into our general fund. We will start with our revenues. So let me begin by saying this is really a banner year for our revenues. We are hitting revenue estimates and year-end projections that are the highest ever. With our general fund revenue estimate next year, $180.3 million, or a 10% increase from our current year's adopted budget. Our sales tax is increasing by 13.6%. Our property tax is growing by almost 5%. Our fees and charges are also showing a growth of 15.1%. Our cannabis taxes and permits has a slight decrease, essentially plateauing at about $375K or 9%. And our TOT, essentially our hotel tax, is growing by $2.2 million, again, our highest, to $9.6 million. Our general fund revenue, as you can see here, is the majority is our sales tax of $82.5 million, followed by our property tax of $54.4 million, and then you can see the breakdown into our other categories from our hotel tax to our fees and charges. This provides you a little bit of a history of our sales tax and our property tax. As you can see in 1920, when the pandemic hit, we took quite a hit in our sales tax. We went from 66 million to 56.9, and then we slowly started to grow that back. Our property tax was not impacted by the pandemic, but it has been showing really healthy growth. So where's all this money going to? Like I said, our general fund is structurally balanced with no use of reserves or ARPA. It funds a net of 4.6 positions. We're also funding the CAN, increasing our city attorney's contract by about $50,000. Our pension costs year-over-year increase is $2.4 million. However, we are continuing a $4 million vacancy factor that was adopted in the 1920 general fund budget. This provides a chart of where we were in adopted and where we're proposing. So you can see in our revenues and our expenses, we're growing by 16.7 million, or about 10.2% from our adopted budget. I also want to take a pause here to let you see where our amended budget at this time, we're anticipating this to be. Again, this is an estimate. The final audited numbers will not be available until the close of this calendar year. However, we are anticipating about a $4 million surplus at the end of the current year. We also wanted to provide you where we were an essential to our amended budget. So you can see in our amended budget where we're looking at to close at the end of this year on June 30th, that we're expecting about $175 million in general fund, which is essentially a 3% growth year over year. We all know our inflation is closer to 5 or 6% at this point, so this is conservative at a 3%. For our expenditures, we're also growing about 5.7% from our amended budget. The art of collaboration, strengthening our safety and improving our quality of life. Over 52% of the general fund is going to our public safety departments. The balances will help support all of our other services. In our police department, we're at 142 sworn positions, which includes the deputy police chief. It's the highest level of the police sworn staffing since the Great Recession. We've also requesting to annualize certain staff enhancements in our police department. Our management analyst to a senior management analyst, converting a part-time property and evidence specialist to full-time, a community services specialist to a full-time crime analyst, a part-time animal control officer to full-time, and we're also increasing our personnel overtime and training by $40,000. We're also including $230,000 in contractual agreements for multiple contracts in the police department, including the warehouse rentals, professional training, and uniforms. And in our CIP, we're including $900,000 for our police headquarters to replace some outdated carpet and repainting. And we're also recommending some funding for the design of our future police substation. In our fire and rescue department, we're proposing to convert 2 fire division chief positions to an assistant fire chief, a sworn, and an assistant non-sworn fire chief. We're also recommending to provide an additional $500,000 to our fire department's overtime budget. This is something I've been hearing from FIPAC since I've started, and very happy to be able to start to put some money into this category, even though it's still somewhat short, but we're moving in the right direction. We are also requesting about $1 million of seed money that would go towards a potentially recommended bond for fire stations 2 and 4 and the police West Side substation. In the CIP for our fire and rescue department, about $1.5 million for fire station 2 construction seed money. This is an additional $1 million. And for fire station 3, replacement of fuel tank, as well as about $150,000 in change for some minor improvements and maintenance upgrades. In our category to recruit and retain our high-quality staff, we're annualizing the funding to our commitment to recruit and retain high-quality staff through our recent negotiations of about $5.1 million, increasing our CalPERS by 2.4, increasing our recruitment and retention incentives for our public safety departments for about $786,000, reclassifying the 2 fire management positions to assistant fire chief positions. We're hoping that this restructuring is to support our organizational effectiveness and coordination. For our new positions in our general fund, the Information Technology Department is recommending the Cybersecurity Analyst, which is actually part of our ITSP. This position is funded by the IT Replacement Fund. Finance Department, we're requesting a Business License Inspector. It's to ensure compliance for businesses within city limits. And with our new land management system, additional businesses have been discovered that will require outreach. Our Associate Engineer in the Public Works Department to expedite the preparation and processing of permits, as well as a solid waste coordinator to address state regulations and requirements. This last position is fully funded by SB 1383, so it's a net neutral impact to our general fund. For our part-time conversions to full-time, we're requesting to convert 4 recreation specialists to full-time to assist with the day-to-day supervision of our recreational programs. In the police department, a property and evidence specialist conversion to full-time for additional enforcements. Our crime analyst position to support crime mitigation and analytics to respond more efficiently to public safety issues. An animal control officer conversion to allow for additional animal control enforcement, and a video production specialist in our city manager's office to enhance the city's communication and public engagement. And Public Works, a part-time maintenance worker to a full-time equipment mechanic to assist with the increasing workload demands due to our aging fleet. To advance environmental sustainability and climate resiliency. At midyear, we funded 1 new planning and sustainable development manager. We're funding in the proposed budget a new management analyst, the solid waste coordinator. We have $4.1 million in the CIP for active transportation, which includes $600,000 for Safe Routes to School grant, $2 million for the T. Winkle Park Lakes repairs, $150,000 for tree planting and maintenance, a climate action adaptation plan study, Jack Hammett Sports Complex LED lights, and T. Winkle Sports Lights LED lights. To achieve our long-term fiscal sustainability. As previously mentioned, this is a structurally balanced general fund budget. We are maximizing the city's economic recovery strategically. We're fully funding the CAN in our IT strategy plan in our current year, and we're continuing moving forward, correcting a previous deficit in the equipment replacement fund. We're also depositing an additional $1 million in TIP payment for a potential recommended bond for the reconstruction of fire stations 2 and 4 and the Police West Side Station. And we are also will be bringing forth in June a consolidated cities master fee and charges schedule. They are currently being reviewed by our FIPAC, and they will be presented to FIPAC tomorrow. So for our year-end general fund balances, as you can see here, we've been growing our total general fund balances and 53.5. We closed last year at $57.8 million. We're anticipating at least $4 million. However, I did want to point out here that last year's adopted budget, we had the policy to deposit $1.5 million to our Section 115 trust, so you'll see that 1.5 in the restricted category. We're also recommending $1 million in our workers' compensation SIR. This would bring that assigned fund balance category to $2 million, which essentially would be the city's obligation for 1 claim. As you can see in the self-insurance, that's also $2 million. Financial achievements, we have many. We have strategically utilized ARPA to offset the fiscal impacts of the pandemic. We corrected self-insurance fund from prior year deficits. We've provided for ongoing revenue stream for equipment replacement fund. We dedicated 1.5% of our general fund revenues to the IT replacement fund to address our aging technology, software, and equipment. We've achieved and exceeded the City Council Reserve Fund balance policy of $55 million. We took advantage of a low interest rate environment to secure a master lease agreement for the ambulances, apparatus, mobile command unit, and police armored vehicle for an average rate of 2.2%. We've also secured $14.4 million in multiple grant funds from State Senator Dave Min, Assemblywoman Kati Petrie-Norris, and County Supervisor Katrina Foley. As you can see here from our budget calendar, we have been out publicly with our CIP starting on April 11th. With the City Council, FIPAC was able to weigh in on April 12th. Tonight is your operating budget study session. Tomorrow, we will be going to the FIPAC committee. Then we're going to be moving forward with Parks and Community Services on May 11th. May 22nd will be the Planning Commission. We'll be back to Council on June 6th for the proposed operating and CIP budget public hearing. If needed, we could have a study session on June 13th and with a, if needed, proposed budget adoption of June 20th. With that, I will take any questions.
All right, Council. Do you have any questions for Carol? Warren?
You can go first, Manny.
Oh, whoever wants to go first.
Thanks.
Manny?
Thanks,
well.
John. Thank you, Lauren. Gonna try to be informal here and use first names. So this will be more for Lorianne than Carol, but good job on the good presentation. Very good, seeing a nice balanced budget. So thank you to your team. On page 16, Lorianne, we acknowledge that we're going to be putting aside $384,000 in unallocated funding for park acquisition in Westside Costa Mesa. Friendly amendment, there actually is a parcel in my district that might be perfect for this on the corner of Pomona and Victoria Street. Is it possible to just allocate that to that parcel because it's the biggest parcel in the Westside that's green space?
Thank you, council members. So that's obviously a policy decision for the council, but yes, at the present time, we have about $384,500 that's available in the CIP, but that's not allocated. It would need to be appropriated, but it's available for whatever the council chooses.
Well, in that case, I'd like to encourage that. Is that better? I think so. In that case, I want to encourage my council to think of that parcel for this money, because as we know, we're doing 2 park expansions in District 4 that are both pocket parks. This would be another way to add more green space to that part of town.
Yeah, at this point, we're not sure how much that would cost, but yeah, I mean, putting something aside towards that within a future estimate on design would work.
All right, thank you. So with that, just a few quick comments. Again, I want to congratulate our staff for doing a job well done. I think it's very simple. Our job here on council really is 3 things. It's public safe, is there money in the bank for revenues, in terms of revenue stream and reserves, and then are we doing our best to improve quality of life. I can gladly say that all those 3 things are really here in this proposed budget. First and foremost, I just want to say to the member of the audience that concerns about public safety, I mean, our biggest chunk of the budget is going to PD. About 32% is going to our officers and keeping us safe, and that's a really good thing. Combine that with fire, and you're about 52% for public safety. That's right in line where we should be for a community our size. That's right in line and where the public expects us to be in terms of keeping our community safe. Along those lines, I also want to say I'm happy we're continuing the IT development. I do also view that as a bit of public safety in some aspects. Not only does it keep us safe from any cyber attacks, but also make sure that our systems are in place and they can be easily recovered if something goes awry. I know prior councils have done a good job of thinking ahead and planning ahead, and I'm happy that we're finally investing in IT, because IT keeps our city running. It's what makes it a lot easier to have projects go through planning. It's to make sure our PD and fire can go to an emergency a lot quicker. So I'm happy to see us continue to develop that. On terms of like financial security, again, can't be nothing but pleased of how we use our ARPA funding and how we leverage that to ensure we have met our goal of having a reserve fund balance exceeding our required amount. Again, these are things that the community expects us to do, and we're doing a good job of that. And finally, just quickly, I just want to make a quick comment on improving quality of life. I agree with all the speakers that spoke earlier about enhancing the arts master plan. It was my idea alongside Lauren and John to include arts funding in the cannabis revenue stream, because we wanted to make sure that that money was going to a public good, which is arts. And if we're seeing the revenue won't come quick enough at 0.5%, I'm totally fine adding more funds to that pot. It's a public benefit, and I think it'll be good for our city to continue leaning into our title of City of the Arts. So those are all my comments. I hope my council could support my idea of adding that park in Pomona and Victoria. But other than that, staff, job well done. Lorianne, great job managing the budget. Thank you.
Lauren?
Okay, thank you. So yes, I do indeed support Manny's recommendation. I do think it's very important because there's a great need on our west side. I actually spent the day over the weekend speaking with constituents at Shalimar and at Ketchum-Libel Park, and I really feel that the west side is deserving of a larger park that the constituents can recreate in. I don't think they don't have the parks that we have, say, in District 2, for example, or they don't have Tewinkle. We have some pretty large parks on one side of town, and then on the other side of town, we really don't have much of anything. So I would really like to see that. Let me, before I speak, go into this presentation. Carol, you did. This is probably one of the most comprehensive presentations that I've seen delivered to us in the short time that I've been here. So I want to thank you for that, because you did an incredible job. It was very informative. As a matter of fact, it addressed all of the concerns that all the constituents came up with today. So I want to thank you for that, because you basically took most of the words out of my mouth. So thank you. You did a great job with this. I have a question on page 39 of this presentation, where we're looking at the environmental sustainability and climate resiliency. The last two bullets here, the Jack Hammett Sports Complex lighting upgrade and the Tewinkle Sports Field lighting upgrade. We were given a presentation of allocations. I don't know when it was, but one of the things that we talked about was baseball field drainage, netting, and batting cage improvements. I see that it's not included in here, and I don't know if we need to have that language specifically put in as a, these were allocations before. Now we're looking at what we're actually doing, and the words don't match word for word. Can I get something in response to that?
Sure, I'll go ahead and direct it to Director Sethuraman.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not trying to split hairs, but I have as few left as I have. You split some.
Yeah, thanks for the question. This slide actually just highlights the sustainability portion of the project. That's why it just mentions LED, but yes, the drainage and other improvements are part of the project. But the slide highlights only the sustainability portion.
So where is the language then that actually directs us to, I have it on my phone, so I hate to show it on my phone, but what's the Senator Dave Min fund specifically?
It's in the CIP for that particular project. The description of that CIP will have all the other improvements.
So it's not omitted, we're still gonna do it, it's just not in this particular.
In this slide, that's all.
Okay, thank you. That's really all I have. Good job.
Don?
My turn. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you, Lauren. I completely support the arts master plan, and if there's anything we're missing, let us know. Point it out to us if it's missing in the budget. With Manny regarding the parks, I'm always going to support your parks or any parks in the city. I think that's really, really important how how we look in Costa Mesa. To that point, I also, it might have been a year ago, the council committed to take over maintenance and improvements at the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. I know there's 300,000 in the budget for, CIP budget for lights, I think. Is that correct? You guys, if you can remember that, you're better than me, so I have to remember one number. I think it's lights.
Councilor Harper, the CIP budget, we allocated monies for sport court resurfacing. And there are other potential improvements too down the road, which is the restroom, the clubhouse, and the shade structure. So the LED lighting was part of the recent allocation.
Part of that allocation.
Councilman,
Raj, I have a group of people that are, since we had that meeting almost a year ago, a lot of people keep reaching out to me asking what's going on with the whole thing. And I'm getting more feedback about the quality of the courts and the quality of the nets and fencing. So one of the overzealous residents, I mean that nicely, came up with a budget, got quotes, and it's about $874,000 to remodel, redo, resurface, relight the whole center. So we've got 300,000 allocated.
Yeah, and I think we are also adding some more funds the upcoming fiscal year too. We're requesting that.
Do you think we'll add more? Do you think we can get that done?
That's part of the proposal, so it's up to the council. If it gets approved, the CIP is approved, there will be more funding added to that.
So it's possible still to get that amount out of line asking for that. I think it'd be great to have a really beautiful first-class tennis center. There's more pickleball, so there's less tennis courts. So tennis courts are more valuable. It's still a growing sport. And then I'd love to see pickleball over there as long as the neighbors and residents don't call the police on, that's you, Dan. So, all right. Thank you, Raja. That's really helpful. I appreciate it. I had a couple questions on these are math questions, Carol. You're going to love these. On page 3 of the staff report, you listed items. I have a calculator at home. I added them up. There's about $11.6 million of items. There's a $17 million increase in the budget. The $5 million, is that our negotiated salary increases?
That's correct.
That's the, see, I found it. Are you proud of me that I
Yes.
found it? Okay. That's the point of that question. The pot shops, sorry, the cannabis shops. You got a budget of $2.9 million. Did you get to that by calculating the number of stores that'll get approved? And then I'm kind of answering Cynthia McDonald's question. Number of stores and then, revenue per store. And is that how you did that?
We calculated based on the number of stores, and we utilized essentially the city of Santa Ana when they first opened up and how many stores that they had and they were generating at that time. We came up with the $2.9 million as once those stores would open up, what we anticipate to generate based on actual receipts.
So City of Santa Ana does so many dollars per store, and we think we're going to have that many stores times
Correct.
that's your number. And you think we'll get those approved by that time? Is that your,
Yes, this is-
that's from,
Yes, this would be based on what we have currently approved.
what you currently have approved, that'll actually open.
Correct.
Okay, so that's conservative, right?
Correct. It's conservative, so obviously
That
as
seems like it.
more are approved, the number will increase.
Okay. I was going to ask Lauren this next question, but let me find the page, and I apologize. Oh, it's 5. So I'm teasing you, Lauren. On page, attachment 4, attachment 4, it's that number, you call it a vacancy thing, I think, that's what you call it, $4 million.
Correct.
You want to explain that to?
Correct. That, it's about $4 million of vacancy attrition. It was included in the 1920 adopted budget. Essentially what that is it accounts for certain positions to be vacant in a given year. So there's some departments that have vacancies that you can count on annually. For example, the police department is one that's technically, it's not just Costa Mesa, it's just known throughout, even all the cities I've been at that have been full service. The police department tends to hold a certain number of vacancies. So that essentially captures the salary savings for that vacancy in that given year.
So you put the cost in the budget, and then you total those up and put another line item, what the not funding or not hiring for those positions in that
So-
line item called $4 million.
Correct. So in that 1920 adopted budget,
Sorry, wait, you say 1920, you said.
yeah, fiscal year 1920 adopted budget was when the city had decided to utilize vacancy attrition
Yeah.
to offset the salary savings that would normally be seen in those particular departments. So we are aware that that $4 million continues to be in the proposed budget. We would like to have a plan in the future to start to address and kind of lower that number over time.
It's not it's just like a plan to lower it, it's just a number. I don't understand what the,
So essentially, it's a salary savings due to vacancies.
it's a salary savings because you didn't hire the person, but you budgeted for the person, so you put in the budget.
Correct. So
but
you will,
It's
yes,
not there.
correct. So since we don't know during the year which positions will become vacant,
Yeah.
we fully fund every single position, assuming that they're all going to be filled. Right? So then there is certain departments who do not get to 100% throughout the entire year. They'll have vacancies throughout the year. Somebody will leave in June, and then somebody gets hired back, quarter to 3 or 4 months later. So that differential, that salary savings, is what that $4 million is capturing for
So,
those positions.
In government, you say, we think we should have 150 police officers, and so we budget for that.
Correct.
But you all know, or somebody knows that came up with the $4 million, says, it's not going to be 150, it's going to be 130.
Right,
And that's the 4 million.
correct. And it's not just police officers, it's
And I get it, it's all
citywide,
that,
but-
so it makes it hard to compare. Can I say that's silly? It just seems silly. I just don't, I think someone talking through it, it just doesn't make a lot, it makes it hard to compare the numbers.
which is why we daylighted it. So
Daylighted it, what's that mean?
So basically, if you look to the 1920 adopted budget,
Yeah.
that $4 million will not show anywhere. So when I came on board, what I wanted to do was to make sure that we are all aware of the vacancy attrition that's in those numbers. So that way, when you see the salaries and the benefits that's on the other categories, that's fully funding all of the salaries and compensation for all of the city's employees. So we took and we added a vacancy attrition account, so that way we all knew what was in that number. And we did that in 2021.
How do we change, and maybe the other council members get it and understand it and think it's brilliant, I don't, but how do you get, if I wanted to say, how do we get rid of that process or that methodology? How do we
It
do
is
that?
our intent to.
It's your intent?
It is our intent to yes, start to tackle that. We actually started that already. It used to be higher. It used to be in some of the other departments, and we've started the process of slowly and strategically starting to take down that number.
Okay, I appreciate your
But I
patience
think
with.
what you're saying is not getting rid of the vacancies, but getting rid of the policy of having a budget for a higher number of employees and then putting the vacancy. You're saying just budget for the employees we can hire.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we're on the same page. It's just so much simpler, and you wouldn't have me ask it every year. I've asked it every year. I got 2 more years left, but okay, maybe 1 more year. 1 more year I'll ask. They're all hoping. Now, with that number, when I look back in attachment 6, where it's by department, is that vacancy number embedded in those numbers? So those numbers would be comparable?
Correct. So that vacancy number is embedded.
See, I figured that out too. Aren't you impressed?
Good job.
Thank you, Ellen.
You got it.
Thank you. I got an A.
Anytime you need help, just
Thanks. I knew you'd help. Yeah. Carol, I think. there is on page, well, it's attachment 4 of the second page, it's not numbered. Grants, loans, and subsidies. I just want to understand that in government accounting, is that a loan? Are those actually loans issued?
I'm sorry, which, attachment 4, which page?
The second page, Carol. I don't think there's a page number. It's attachment 4.
Grants, loans, and subsidies, that $2
Yeah.
million?
It's $2 million. It was 6.7, 2.7, 800, and then that $2 million this year. I'm just curious, is that money just out, or it's not? Is it expense related? Is it a loan that comes back? It says grants, loans, and subsidies.
I can get you the details, but it's essentially an expense side for grants. So it's not, there's no loans in that number. But I can get you that details offline later.
So it's $2 million surrounding an activity that's grants and loans. Oh, to get grants.
It's grant related, it's a grant related expenditure.
Trying to get grants and loans, and that's how you allocate
So
your
we
costs to do that.
we allocate the revenue side and then we'll allocate the expense side.
Okay.
But we can get you the detail for that particular line item.
Same page, what is other costs that, well, last year was 1.6 million. This year it's $1,900, it's $1,900. So what was that last year?
Do you remember? I'd have to look for you, to be honest with you.
Okay, that was just a test. That was really not that important to me. You know, that's all I have, Carol. I appreciate it. Good job to you and your staff. It is a good report, and I understood it. So I could ask questions all night, but I won't do that. So, y'all, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
Jeff or Arliss? Arliss? Go ahead.
All right. I'll put this tea down. Thank you for the binder, all of the work and the presentation tonight. I have notes organized by department and then by goals, so I might be a little bit redundant here. But I'll start with the easiest one, and this is on page 3. I made this comment last year, not critical, but I'd love us to modernize the icons. I think they're, I made a pitch on that last year too. And then we do need to make a correction on the commissions. We have we split up the Parks and Community Services and then the Arts Commission, so we do need to do a fix there. But, you know, Parks and Community Services shows a sailboat. I think we can represent our police better than someone standing with a gun next to a jail. I just think maybe it's an art project to modernize those icons. So that's the easy one. Just a couple notes on some of the recommendations. There was a recommendation to transfer our constituent services to the city manager's office. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also, looking at the city manager department, wanted to make a suggestion. I was excited to learn that the energy and sustainability manager position has been filled again. Excited to move that work forward. And given that work, as we actually see on the slide in front of us, is so affects multiple departments. I know we have an interdepartmental green team. I think it makes a lot of sense for that energy and sustainability manager to report directly to the city manager as a just sort of a functional change. So would like to make that recommendation. We got a detailed presentation on the Planning and Developmental Services Department. I just would really like to, I know we've been asking for this, and I know staff are working on it, but just sort of the calendar. We have a long list of activities that we're trying to accomplish this year and over the next few years, but just, you know, continue to give us some understanding and information we can share with the community in terms of the schedule of the different activities on your plate this year. For the police department, one of the things that I've been really interested in is building up our community relations program. I've talked about this a little bit with the chief in the past. We mention it, but I'd love to see it more explicit and whether we have staff dedicated it, but really building and growing our community relations program through relationship building with community organizations. I see sort of mentions of it, but I haven't seen the dedicated approach, and I'd love that to be more explicit because I know that is our intention. I had a question. There was a goal within the police department section saying that, let me see if I can find it quickly, but it was related to, I think, building a media room to support community engagement, and I was just curious what that meant. Does that ring a bell? Okay. And while the chief's coming up, just one other note on the, related to police department. So the CIP on the West Side substation, we had actually, pre-COVID, created a CIP for some conceptual design on the West Side substation related to how we could adapt, of course, update, but also adapt that building to be also a little bit more community facing. I think it was the Lions Club probably used to host pancake breakfast out of there, and it's a really great facility at sort of the nexus of a lot of our recreation facilities. So I'd love to, I understand that there's some critical repairs that need to happen at that station. I just want to make sure that we continue the community-facing component as part of the broader design. So media room. What's that?
Yes, thank you, Council Member. We're excited about our media room. We had a small grant that started the funding of it, and it's multifaceted. It could be used in an emergency if we needed to get messaging out, if we were doing a press conference, for example, if we needed to create social media broadcast messages. But it's also more commonly going to be used for community outreach, as you mentioned, kind of reaching out on social media and creating videos. You probably recall the video we created with the officers with multi-languages reciting our code of ethics, which is a very powerful message and one we wanted to send to our community to demonstrate our diversity. And so it's projects such as that. And with regards to the West Side substation, of course, that's down the road and a lot of it's conceptual, but we're excited about the community-facing part of it too, because that's a great footprint in that neighborhood, and we want to make sure that we're there for that neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Is the media room something that we would use for other outreach efforts? You know, community engagement has been a goal. I'm looking at both you, Chief, and City Manager. It seems like an asset that could be useful for other departments as well. Is that the intent?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Other departments could use it as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And then just a couple quick questions for Parks and Community Services. One, we've got a lot of items, there he is, a lot of items related to Fairview Park, both grant funding and master plan and so on. Does Kelly have enough staff support to move through all of those projects?
Thank you, Councilmember. According to Kelly, no. I would actually echo it that yes, we will be looking at options to either bring in consultant staff, obviously working with Raja's team, the Public Works Department. You know, prior to having a Fairview Park administrator had, overseen most of the happenings at Fairview Park. So between his staff, Kelly, and looking at other resources to bring into our own department, yes, we'll be looking at all those options. Okay.
Yeah, I would encourage that. I think for as long as I've been up here, we've been in a reactive state on Fairview Park for good reason, right? COVID, we had some bluff emergency issues. The more we learn about it, the more we find out that we need to fix. So I'd be really supportive of exploring some options from using the grant funding for project management support or other options to give Kelly and everyone the opportunity to sort of get ahead of the ball on Fairview Park. One other question, and this is related to a broader theme that I've been focused on in just open space access. One of the strategies that we've explored or are exploring is coordination with our school sites and using their sites to provide open play access or other access. Does our budget include the sort of bandwidth for that kind of programming?
It hasn't at this point. We're working with our district liaisons on that. We've been having monthly meetings to discuss. They have two things ongoing, and I don't want to speak for the district, but I know one of them was related to security evaluation of all their campuses, and another one, I forget, it was another facilities master plan update I think that they were doing, and the security one is the one that we were kind of waiting on more to determine what enhancements would be needed to kind of separate some of the critical resources at that school, at the Ray School, from where the public would be using the park. So they wanted to continue operating as a school site, but have some security measures in place for when it was more accessible by the public.
Okay, so I don't know the East Side schools, but when we look at the map, for example, on page, of course, it doesn't have a page number. There's no page number. I don't know how to reference this.
So like
Anyways,
Harbor Park off of.
Yeah, so when if we look at a map, it's and this is one of the things I was eager to see in our open space master plan, right? Where do we have areas in the city where residents don't have easy access to any green space? And we've talked about a variety of strategies to address that issue. In sort of the lower west side of Costa Mesa, Whittier Park seems like an obvious solution to the neighborhood in that area. Maybe it's Harper Park on the east side. I'm really interested in what we can do in terms of coordination with the schools on making those sites accessible and any other school sites that are in park deficient neighborhoods. So going back to my question, I'm not clear on the answer. Does our budget as proposed support opening up any of those sites based on our current conversations with the schools?
The first site we were considering is kind of the pilot project for it was Ray. You know, in our discussions, our district representatives had thought that would make the most sense from a feasibility perspective based on the way the campus was laid out. But they wanted to complete their facility master plan update and then their security evaluation of the site. So those are the two pieces we were waiting for. Once we have those, we'll know what the costs are, and then we'll be able to bring those before council for what that impact would be. But as of right now, no, it's not in our budget. Okay. If it's minimal, we'd likely be able to absorb it in our department budget, depending on what their proposal was from both of their reports.
Got it. Okay. Great. Yeah, maybe when the budget comes back around, we can get an update on that. I'm not sure if that's enough time. I know these aren't our sites, but I think that's sort of a low-hanging fruit opportunity, right, in terms of some of these park access challenges. So appreciate the follow-up on that. Okay. One of the topics that we've talked a lot about is how we're supporting the residents who rent in our community. And I'm trying to just get together a list of what support, sort of direct support for our renter community is in our budget. I know in our last council meeting, we allocated $150,000 through CDBG funds for the tenant rental assistance program. We provided some direction to explore opportunities for our residents who rent spaces in mobile home communities. Is there any other direct support or support that's focused on our renter community in our budget?
The other area would be the ARPA, where we are identifying potentially some more monies from ARPA funds for our rental assistance program. And it's in the future projected category.
Was that was the $500 or $500,000 in future projected?
It was in here, and it says future proposed. It's about $4 million. So that a component of that $4 million, we've already did the $500,000, but we're looking at from that $4 million allocating some more money towards rental assistance and coming to council with that request.
Okay. So it's not itemized here, but I think you're saying there's opportunity to support renters from this sort of uncommitted $4 million.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and is that something that you would do as part of this budget cycle, or you would propose as a mid-year budget adjustment?
I would be looking at coming back either in the first quarter of the new year.
Okay. This goes back to some of the questions I had in our council meeting last year and just trying to understanding what is the need. It certainly feels like the $150K that we put towards rental assistance from the CDBG funds is far short. I think we learned that would cover, has already covered 8 families and would cover 8 more. And I think we all know, we can probably all count more than that in terms of families we know need that support. So I would ask council to support additional funding I'll just make up a number, $300,000 additional funding for our rental assistance program in this budget cycle. I think it's important for us to show that we are providing support for our renters in the short term while we try to build lots of affordable housing. And one other comment related to the Safe Streets conversation. We heard the public comment presentation about the bike walk safety event. I'm really excited about that, really excited about how we're going to use the funds that we've already allocated for bike safety education. My understanding is, this is probably ultimately a question for Raja, there he is. My understanding is the funding that we allocated in the previous year's budget is just for safety education on school campuses. And what I am hoping for is funds that are also specifically addressing e-bike education and then education that's accessible to the broader public. I think a lot of the feedback we get on e-bikes, on concerns about e-bikes is users of all ages, teens and adults, not knowing the rules of the road. And so I think providing some education opportunities that adults on e-bikes can participate in is valuable. So does our funding right now cover education for adults or general public or e-bike focused curriculum?
We're trying to be very general in the scope of work, so it should cover all education, regular bikes as well as e-bikes, and we'll try to make it as general as possible so it can be applied for adults as well as children.
Okay. Okay, great. And if we need more funding for that, I actually just learned a few hours ago that OCTA put out an RFP for some e-bike education. I don't know if that would serve Costa Mesa as well, but I'd like to make sure that education, again, covers e-bikes and covers public sort of general education.
Yes, Councilmember Reynolds. Our active transportation coordinator, he works closely with OCTA's coordinator too, so yeah, we'll make sure it's applied.
Great. Okay. Cover that. Okay, and then lastly, on the earlier comments and requests on the West Side land acquisition budget, I'm fully in support of growing all of our budgets for park acquisition and park development and park expansion and park access. I had suggested that we even expand the allocation from the state grants towards, I think it was Ketchum-Leibolt. We had created the West Side Park Acquisition Fund as part of a long-term strategy to purchase additional land for neighborhoods that don't have any park access now. And so I'd really like to see, that fund have a non-zero balance for future land acquisition and also a strategy. Again, I'm hoping this comes in the open space master plan, but what is our long-term strategy to be able to create park access in the neighborhoods that don't currently have any, to grow park access to meet our goals in terms of park acreage per population density and so on. So if that's another opportunity for American Rescue Plan funds, that would be great. I learned when I was at the SCAG conference last weekend of various opportunities. This is from our TPA contacts. There's different grants that focus on land acquisition and other grants that focus on design and expansion. And so I just want to make sure that we've got a plan to be positioning ourselves for positioning ourselves to win the grants we're going to need to purchase land long term to close the gaps that we have and that our open space master plan will identify. So I'd appreciate between now and the next meeting some solutions on that, just so our residents in neighborhoods that don't have parks know that we have a strategy for that. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Reynolds, I think, so last year, you might recall that at the end of the year, we had about a $4 million surplus. I think $1 million of it went towards putting in half of what we needed to have a self-insured retention for workers' comp. And then there was some funding for facilities, which we're hoping will be all cobbled together for this seed money that we'll need to issue a bond at some point for stations 2, 4, and then on the fire side, and then the west side substation. But there's also some funding set aside for strategic plan initiatives. And that was basically for council discretion on how you'd like to use that funding in the future. That is one pot of funds that's not appropriated. It's in the reserves and it's for strategic plan objectives. That a portion of that could be used for to fund the west side acquisition fund, if you will, and or if there are savings at the end of this fiscal year, you can direct us as part of the budget adoption process to, once we do the 115 trust, if that's the priority, and we fund the other half of the workers' comp self-insurance requirement that we need, that anything above and beyond that go towards the park acquisition fund, if you will, a land acquisition for the west side. So those are two different alternatives, either current year savings at the end of the year or using last year's savings that are in that strategic plan reserve category.
Okay, thank you. I don't have the numbers in front of me because I don't think we have the 5-year forecast. I guess it wouldn't be here, but in previous budgets, we've had a 5-year, is it 5 or 7 year forecast where this particular fund was, proposed to be funded, and it just so happened that was 0 this year. So I would prefer to reinstate the funds based on our previous sort of plans to make sure we have consistent funding. I don't know what that number is right now. I don't know if we can pull it up, but I'd love to connect on whether the funding sources that you just mentioned cover that amount. Does that make sense?
We probably need a bridge for a year, is my guess, because I think we're close to balanced at this point. But there is opportunity with year-end savings for this year and then what we set aside from last year.
Okay.
Yeah, until we can reprogram it again in the next fiscal year's budget.
Okay. Yeah, and that's fine. It could be, again, this is a long-term plan, right? And so it's not urgent that there be funds allocated now. Just to articulate, and I promise this is my last comment, is what I am excited about, right? And I know we added a task specific to this in the Open Space Master Plan RFP, is identifying, if we have a goal, and I think the mayor has mentioned this before too, based on some work that we've seen happening in Buena Park, if we have a goal that every resident in Costa Mesa can walk to a park within 10 or 15 minutes, right? Where right now do residents not have that capability? I think the Open Space Master Plan will identify those locations, propose some potential solutions, and then I'm hoping that maybe this time next year we're able to put together a more specific plan in terms of how we close those gaps. So just want to make sure we're not losing time to continue to build up a fund, because I think we know by looking at the map we're gonna have to be able to acquire land, and I know we've got a real estate manager coming in, so that's a key part of the solution as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
Okay, thank you, John. I only have a few questions and comments, but first I wanted to, again, thank staff, Carol, you and your department, and all the other departments in city manager's office who contributed to this. I was sitting at my dining room table when I heard the thud of this, my binder being dropped off. I literally could feel the weight of this document. But it is a very readable and accessible document, and I want to make sure I at least acknowledge. First, I appreciate the theme. I think this really is accurate about this particular year in collaborating with our partners, especially in getting grant funding for so many projects. And then secondly, I really did appreciate the graphic design of this. I liked the Orange County Museum of Art photos kind of peppered throughout. I thought that was a good nod to our newest cultural arts facility here in the city. Okay, two quick things. I notice it's the same dollar amounts, but it's characterized differently in the presentation than in our staff report. And this is the $700,000 related to diversifying, stabilizing, and increasing housing to reflect community needs. So as I understand it, this should be for housing element implementation And then I think, Carol, I heard you say that we're planning on adding more money later, something in the neighborhood of $3 million this year. So I just want some clarification because there's some discussion in the staff report about compliance with Measure K, and I want to clear that up.
Of course. So the proposed budget currently does not include 700,000. The proposal is to utilize current year savings, salary savings that we have of about 700,000 that we know for sure we're going to have this year, to transfer it into a fund so that the Development Services Department can utilize that $700,000 next year or the following year. However, we know that the cost will probably be closer to $3 million. So what we're requesting council to do is consider providing staff the authority to transfer up to $3 million, if so choose, from current year savings into this housing element cost, so that it's fully funded with current year.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense to me. I think my question relates more to what the scope of that work is going to be, because housing element implementation is pretty broad. I don't know we've had a specific direction, and Jennifer's already there. But I do want to say, I want to be careful about talking about Measure K in this context, because Measure K did not create any new regulatory environment. It's merely an exception, a new exception to our existing code. We, of course, do plan on including visioning as part of our city-initiated land use efforts and elsewhere, but I'm going to leave it to you to clarify this for me.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think a better way to describe this is housing element implementation. It's a broader term, but really what we mean by that is the visioning and rezoning efforts that were described in the city's housing element as a way to create additional opportunities for housing in Costa Mesa. That is what is intended with this budget.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. The second, and actually maybe while you're up there, Jennifer, it was just the next item here, the $3.5 million for Fairview Development Center master planning. Do you have an estimated schedule for that?
Yes, we do. Essentially, we've been working with the state on some coordination matters related to the Cal OES proposal at the Fairview Developmental Center site. So that's changing some of the details of what we had in our request for proposals. But our intent is to move forward with the release of that request for proposals for both planning and environmental technical work. And the intention and what we committed to is to complete the planning effort within 3 years. We hope to do it quicker than that, but for certain, our schedule shows completion of the land planning effort for FDC within 3-year timeframe.
Okay, good. All right, back to you, Carol. So this just sort of caught my attention, and it's buried somewhat in the document. Our business license fee has pretty much been flat for about the last decade. It's kind of hovered around $900,000. Is our fee relative to other communities low, and how is that calculated?
Our business license fee is extremely low. It's also considered a tax, so it would require a vote of the people to change that. So that is a set dollar amount that was set, I'd like to say, many, many years ago, but the only way to change that fee is a vote of the people.
Okay, that is good to know. And lastly, I will echo support for the commitments to our arts and culture master plan. I think it's been already said before how important that is, but as the city of the arts, we should uphold that motto. And as for the West Side funding for park acquisition, I totally agree. Let's get money in that fund and make sure we at least have something there available when the opportunity presents itself. We can act quickly. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just have a few comments. Again, thank you once again. I mean, this is, it just seems like the finance department, notwithstanding their IT challenges that they have to overcome on a yearly basis, just keeps building on the success and the efficiency and the comprehensiveness of the work that you do and clarity. And so, as I've said before, this is my 7th budget, And we've had all kinds of crazy stuff that's happened during budget time. And I'm not going to tell all the stories now, but over drinks, we could tell the stories and you'd be laughing your butt off at the stories that have happened during budget time. There's no stories out of this. I mean, it's clean. It's really clean. So thank you. It takes a tremendous amount of work from, as you said, not only you, but your staff, but all the departments and all the departmental staff, and a lot of negotiations and a lot of sacrifice that's made on the department level. And so I just want to acknowledge that and say that I appreciate it. Some specific things. I want to make, this is in no particular order, okay? I want to make a suggestion about how to refine the projection of cannabis revenue, okay? So we have one, and this is just a suggestion, projections and estimates are inherently speculative, and no matter what we do, but here's one way you might be able to do it, is if you look at what we have one that's open right now. There's a grand opening of, by the way, if anybody wants to go, there's a grand opening of Stizzy on Harbor and Adams. They took over the Pier 1. They're opening on Saturday. So what time, Manny?
10 o'clock in public.
10 o'clock, yeah. So if anybody wants to go, that'd be good. But we have one that's been open for a good amount of time, so we have a number of data points, and that's 420 Central. So if you take the data points and you say, this is the revenue that we've received, and what is the square footage of that property? And then you say, okay, we can derive a tax revenue per square foot. Then you can look at it and say, okay, the however many, 22 that we've that we have approved, what's the total number of square footage? Then to refine it to another level, you'd say, okay, what is the likelihood that they're going to open, and how long are they going to be open during this fiscal year? So for Stizzy, they would get 100%. So we'd take the 420 Central per square foot, we'd apply it to the square foot of Stizzy, we'd have that go over the full fiscal year because they're going to be open, as I said, on Saturday. It's not perfect, but I think it's more, it's a better methodology focusing on the what we have in Costa Mesa, as opposed to, respectfully, Carol, what you said that we did, which was look at another city's experience that wasn't in the environment that we're in now. And one of the, I think it was Cynthia, said something about that is a difficult environment statewide for cannabis. One of the reasons for that, and that is really not as much of a problem in Costa Mesa because of the way we restructured our ordinance, but there's a lot of trap shops, illegal shops that are popping up again. And I was on a phone call yesterday with a lobbyist, and she told me that there's two funds that you can get grants from to do enforcement with the state of California. The total amount is $250 million. And so maybe we could look into that. As those type of opportunities, we have somebody that we're going to be hiring soon that does, looks into all this stuff, government relations and grants and lobbying and stuff like that. So it'll be good to have that person come on board. But that's one thing to look at. In terms of the parks, what I support Manuel. However, what I think the first step is to engage and talk to the owner of that parcel to see if they're interested in selling and what the price point would be. The other thing that we've talked about before on the west side and elsewhere, and I'll say a place that's very specific, is in the area of Mission and Mendoza, that area. There's a little strip of land, and we were talking when Andrea and I went out with Juana Trejo about turning that into what we called a parquecita. You know what I'm talking about, Raja? And so I think, and the beauty of that is that using the street in an area that doesn't affect ingress and egress or otherwise mess up our traffic, if we could use our land, whether it be streets or other land, and use that, to create new parks and new green spaces in places that don't have green spaces, that's a good way to go, because then we avoid the land acquisition cost, which is often the most expensive part of acquiring and then building a park. Let's see what else I have. In terms of the arts, so I read it, by the way, thank you to everybody who sent in emails. I read all the emails. Thank you, Cynthia. Your email was excellent. The one thing that I wanted to point out is the way that cannabis tax allocation is structured. It's really like, it's basically 1/14 of our tax goes to, I think that makes sense. It's one half of one of our 7%. So I think that's whatever it is. You guys can do the math. But it's not 0.5% of all the tax. So it's a good amount. I support spending more than that amount on the arts master plan going forward. But, you know, that's just a policy decision that we make. I mean, that's always been the case. In other words, once we get to the amount that's allocated, the 1/2%, whether it be to the first-time home buyers or to arts, then it just goes into the general fund. And then we're just spending general fund money to implement the arts master plan, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't think we need necessarily to change any policies with respect to it. It's just, it's general plan money, and we're saying it should be allocated to that. That's the recommendation, and I support it. Let's see what else. It's tough when you can't read your own writing. Okay, yeah, we've already dealt with that. Let's see. Okay, so I wanted to talk about something that within the last 24 hours I've been discussing with the city manager. I just want to raise it, so if it comes up later, you heard it here first, and it's something that's going to be part of our discussion. But I really appreciated all of our study sessions running up to this, where we had the departmental study sessions. And one of the themes that we saw through there is, departments that were working very hard and in some cases overworked and understaffed, and I understood that. And I was actually inspired by the idea of taking our management analysts and pulling them from the city council department and putting them in the city manager's department, which I thought was great. And I thought, well, what about other efficiencies that we could create by reallocating staff and functions into other departments? So I thought about two. I thought about two that we should think about, and we're talking about it, and everything will be very transparent, and people will have a chance to vote on it. But I was thinking that maybe code enforcement would be better to be in another department. And my thinking there was, we put so much, there's so much work and so much kind of a variety and diversity of work we put in the developmental services department, and so much work they have coming in the planning and rezoning and stuff like that. How could we kind of give them a little bit more of a breather? And so that was an idea. The other one was animal services. Animal services, I happen to know, because I'm the liaison of the animal services department, is a real, we put it in the parks department. Our heart was in the right place, but it's a very time consuming and a great burden on that department. So the question is, can that function be done more efficiently within the header of another department? So those are the things that we're talking about. Whether they come to fruition, who knows? If they do, it'll all be voted on by council with staff's input. But it's not only that. I mean, I think if we look and we challenge the orthodoxy that we have in the city, where we say this thing has always been done here by this department and that department and these people and so forth, and we say, how can we break things up and make them more efficient and focus people on the stuff that, high level stuff that they've been prioritized to do? I think that's worth doing. And so I would encourage other council members to sound off on that, and of course, staff members and members of the public. That's all I have. Anybody else? We're good? Oh, Andrea's gone. She had to split. She had to go, had a work commitment. So I think we're good. All right, everybody, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful job.